I guess on my hair, she looked alright. And with that actually sitting there like this creams, and I had to have them, sis. All 5 of them. Here, I just had, we're gonna discontinue it, but I had to pick up their book of shadows, honey. Color grade makes cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Wow, so serious. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I am bringing you an eyeshadow tutorial as well as the first impressions on the blush palette, and they both are from Lunar Beauty, honey. As you all know, Lunar Beauty is from Manny MUA here on YouTube, and the packaging on these was so fabulous I had to grab them. Like, look at this. Before I even knew what the color story or anything was going to be like, I'm like, honey, if he have these type of bright, vivid spring colors and it's spring, I got to get her. Tell me you can't look at this and instantly go, oh, I know I can use that on an everyday basis, honey. I had no idea what this formula was going to be like, but what I did know is I was going to grab it and test her out, because I'm like, these the type of shades that I can use, especially matte black. She might not have no greens, but the matte black had me some. Then, blush palette. Before I got into eyeshadows, I had a love of blush. Manny MUA makes some beautiful blushes, so when I looked at this and I said, wait, look at those bright, nice spring. Is Manny trying to take all my coins, honey? I did skip on the lip oils because I figured as if I did not need those. I already have enough lip products that I'm trying to get through. Still using the lip mask that I got for Christmas that I just barely tapped the top of it off. So, with this look here, honey, as you can see, things are looking beautiful. Things are looking nice. But how easy was it to get this look? Do I recommend this palette? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. But before we get into all of that, you know I got to bring you swatches. So let's go ahead and get into them. First off, let's get into this beautiful packaging. You all know Lunar Beauty does not play. For him to be an indie brand, he truly brings it with the budget of a larger corporation, and I'm here for it. I'm telling you, even if you did not like the color story, you would probably truly get your life from this packaging. On the inside, there is a really large mirror, but I don't want to show that so I don't blind you. But as you can see, we have 3 rows. There are 18 shades. The top 6 and the bottom 6 are all matte. The middle 6 appear to be metallic. And you know I'm loving the fact that we got a matte black as the very last shade. I know this palette is called Nude Prism, but for me, black is essential in every palette. My only wish is looking at that middle row is that it had a little more variation just looking at it, but we'll be able to get into the swatches and see what that color story looks like. And in this tutorial, we are also going to be using the Nude Prism Blush Palette. Before I had a love of eyeshadows, I had a love of blush, and it appears he did the same packaging here. So I'm expecting to have the same beautiful formula as we always do, but we got to get on the inside and see what these colors look like. And on the inside, we have 6 beautiful blushes here. Although I'm the type of person who would probably go for those blushes on the end, those 2 popping colors, it's going to be nice to have some nude neutral colors in my collection because they are the type that I tend to avoid. Just like with my eyeshadow, I love the bright colors. I like things to be over the top, but I'm trying to soften things up in my collection nowadays, so it's going to be nice to see what these colors swatch like. And I ask that you all please forgive me for these swatches. I may not be the greatest at getting them in a straight line, but these colors are absolutely beautiful. They are smooth, they are pigmented. I don't see any chunky glitter or anything, so I'm truly excited to see what the second half looks like. This is the entire first row and the first 3 shades in the second row. See, honey? Manny must have knew that if this didn't look good, I was going to be online talking big crap. Because these are some of the smoothest eyeshadows that I've used all year. I cannot talk about how they're going to work on the eye because we still haven't tried them yet. But just based on how they blend with the finger across the skin, I am already expecting a beautiful eyeshadow look. So before we get any further, we're going to go ahead and show you what those blush swatches look like. And here we have all 6 shades of the blush palette swatched out. In the pan, they all appear to be matte except shade number 4, which appears to be a satin. And once swatched across the skin, it does appear to be the same way. It just has a slight bit more sheen than the other shades. Shade number 3 comes off as really pigmented, but as you can see, it's the only one that did not swatch all the way down to the bottom. But considering it does have a purple undertone to it that was expected for me, it's usually the same way with eyeshadows, but just based off the swatch, it does appear that every shade in this palette will be pigmented. Alright you guys, as with all tutorials, all tools and products used will be in the description bar below. I am truly excited to get started with this because yesterday we had our first of 2 events for our union voting campaign right now. Everybody's trying to get their vote in, so I showed up yesterday without makeup because I'm thinking, okay, it's just going to be a regular day at work. They ain't going to get me today, so I made sure I'm up early. I'm going to have a beat face, so when I show up, it's going to be time. Made sure we washed brushes last night, so we have clean brushes, clean face, eyes are prepped, and we are playing with the new Prism today. This palette looks absolutely beautiful. I have no clue which shades I want to go in with, especially for those shimmers. The one shade I know I do want to use though is this shade here, Sam, because she's the pinkest shade of them all. And because I'm wearing this pink shirt today, I'm like, you know what? We're going to keep up with that. So what we're going to do is take our largest, fluffiest blending brush and our first shade here, Cherry Blossom. This is the second matte. We're going to blow this throughout our entire crease as a transition shade. Baby, these shadows are soft and they are giving up a lot of kick up. So just to be on the safe side, you already know, tap off our excess because we can always come back for more. And we're going to start outer end, low in the crease, build and buff our way up and out. And I can see her here in person. She's cute, but I'm definitely going to need me a second layer. And after looking at that buff, I'm honestly not afraid of going in ham with my color, but we're gonna still tap her off just to be on the safe side. So just in case you have a lighter complexion, you can see how this is gonna build. Oh yeah, baby, it's that second layer that does it for me. So she is definitely buildable. On my complexion, she would only be a lid or a transition shade because baby, I would definitely need some depth and dimension on my crease with this. And I'm gonna just diffuse those edges. And right now she might look a little soft. She might look like she ain't giving what she's supposed to, but we know we can go in and deepen her up later on. All right, I'm cute. I'm satisfied with that. We're gonna go ahead, do this on the other side, and I'll be right back. That first shade was beautiful, and now it's time to go in and deepen up our crease. I'm going back and forth between this shade here, Apricot, and this shade here, Sakura. I really want to use Sakura, but then I'm thinking like, okay, if you need to deepen up any further, you have fewer options. But you know what? Because we went so light with the transition, we're going to go ahead and risk it. We're going to take this shade here, Sakura, on a slightly smaller blending brush, and we're going to blend that throughout our entire crease. Oh yes, sis. When I tell you these shades are powdery, honey, we're going to knock some of that off. We want to make sure we don't do too much. Started on the outer end, lowest in the crease, and we're going to buff this through. Ooh, baby. Now she's building up beautifully on top of this next shade. Gonna go ahead and make sure I diffuse those edges. And actually, I'm glad I did choose this color. She's not coming off quite as deep and dark as I thought she would. And I'm taking a little more time just to make sure those edges are diffused before we go in with the next layer. All right, and we're gonna go in one more time. Load my brush up. Tap off all excess. And do the same thing. Okay. I'm going to diffuse the edges of that color there. And this definitely blends better on that second layer than it does on that first one. Alrighty, she's there, she's cute. With this shade, I'm not gonna lie, It's nothing that I hate about it, but it's also nothing that I love about it. She's just there. So I'll be back after we do this on the other side. And I was gonna skip this step, but we're gonna take that same shade Sakura on one side of the brush, and we're gonna just press that into our outer V. Yeah, see, we're just packing her on. She comes with the pigmentation of needing nothing else but just to place her down. So I think if you use this as a matte lid shade, she's gonna be way more fabulous than if you use her as a blending shade. I hope y'all can hear that, because I dang sure was trying to make sure y'all was in focus when I said that, and that came out all around. I'll be back after I do this on both sides. Now it's time to deepen up our crease and our outer V. And I'm trying my hardest to avoid the black. So to do so, we're going to come down here to this shade here, Bloom For You. This has much more of a pinky tone to it, so we're going to use that shade there. And we're going to take that on an even smaller blending brush. This is my Redford 14. And I know shades like this are very pigmented. The kick up is there in the pan. Look how dark that is. So we are definitely tapping off all excess, because we can come back in if we need it. Start low in the crease. And more than likely, I'm just going to do one layer of this color, because she's, oh yeah, see? Look at that pigmentation there, honey. One layer, smallest brush, and she is blending like a dream, honey. When I did swatches with this color, she was the one, I wouldn't say any of them were patchy at all, but if one had to be classified as the most, patchy, it would have been this shade here. But the pigmentation and blend on her is beautiful. And usually with really dark shades like dark purples, dark blues, blacks, you can expect some slight patchiness in a swatch, but that doesn't necessarily indicate the quality. But you can see with just that one layer, I have way more depth and dimension on this side than on this side. I just want to make sure I diffuse that a little more, because I do have hooded eyes, so it's usually a little harder to diffuse this edge right here in the center. But then we're also going to take that, press it on one side, and just sweep it back on the outer end of the outer V. It does not have to be perfect. I just want the very corner to be the darkest as we brush our way up. So that way you see the clear lid here, you see Sakura here, then Bloom For You in the outer V. And honey, because I know I got a day ahead of me, we're going to grab our NYX Glitter Primer, our Morphe M421 brush, and we're going to put some on our lids. It is possible for me to go ahead and do this without it, but I want to make sure my shadow does not give me any issues today. So, I'm trying to debate, do I want to cut my crease? Because I haven't done one in a second. We're going to go ahead and grab this. As a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and cut it. Why not? So if we're not going to take it all the way to the back, we're going to do mostly the front half and stop where our outer V color Sakura and Bloom For You start. So we're going to take it about there and then stop it and diffuse those edges. And I want to make sure I cut this crease rather high. Now I'm just sitting here looking at these shimmers like, baby, which ones am I going to use? Normally I would go for 3 colors on the lid, but we're going to hold things off and we're going to be simple. I'm going to take the first shade here, Sam. We're going to load this on the front half of our lid. Then I want something a little darker, a little shinier. And so I'm going to take this shade here, Exposed, and we're going to use this here on the outer half of the lid. Now this shade here, Sam, has some obvious sparkles to it. I wouldn't say that they are large enough to be considered glitters, but almost all 6 shades of this do have some reflective particles in it. And so we're going to just take this here on our natural hair brush, and we're going to press this into the front half. And those sparkles are gleaming, sis. She is coming through for the beam. I just want to make sure I don't miss a particular area. I'm not really worried about having a sharp cut crease, because usually with pinks, I figure that a lot of times they look better if they're nice and soft and blended. But that shade there is shiny, sis. I honestly don't think I need to go in with a second layer, because I believe I'm going to increase my chance of fallout. But considering the fact this shade here has given me full opacity on that first layer, oh yeah, honey, I'm happy. Honey, I'm looking at exposed, and now I realize I might have should have went for a different color, but you know what? We done already told y'all this, so we're gonna go ahead and put her on. We're gonna put her right here, and we're gonna place that between the shade Sam and the shade Sakura. And I wanna blend that toward the front first, where I have more space and have a smaller chance of eliminating my outer V shades. This shade is building up just as easily as the first shade. And to me, I think in person, it's much more easier to see a difference between those two shades. I think when I turn this way, you can see that this shade is lighter and more pink. But when I turn slightly this way, it makes it a little harder to see the two shades. But we'll be back after we do this on the other side. Now that we have our lid shades on, I'm gonna take my smallest blending brush and we're gonna dip back into that shade Bloom for You. It was the darkest one. Tap off all excess, and I wanna come from the outer V, and I want to just deepen up my crease just the tiniest bit. We're gonna take this just through the outer half of our lid, just to give this some depth and dimension, and it'll help things look a little brighter. In the front half, we're going to do this on both sides. This is just going to help pour depth and dimension and darkness on the outer V. Double check those. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I have a little more smokiness on this outer side here. Alrighty, now that we're satisfied with what we have going on so far, I'm going to cut away, finish off the face, and when I come back, I'm going to show you how we're going to finish off the eyes. Alright you guys, we are back, and I wanted to let you all know everything that I used off camera. I'm sitting here looking over to the side at the reflection, and I'm like, honey, if I didn't know no better, I would promise that you had a filter going on, but y'all know I am completely against those. If you're trying to show off the makeup, people need to see exactly what the makeup looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know. Most of these products are products that I've used before, and I've been trying to get, a final review on them. So let's go ahead and get into it. First off, for complexion, we are still using the Nars Soft Matte Complete Foundation. I use this because I am trying to get through this hydrating primer that I've been using recently. She ain't quite all the way gone, but almost. And with this hydrating primer, I need something matte on top of it to last all day. She full coverage, and I keep trying to remind myself, you only need a little bit of this because she was spread. I ended up having to wipe off my hand and throw away the rest because I couldn't get it back in the bottle. Wasn't even going to try, but that's enough on that. What else on complexion? Oh, finally pulled this little cutie out. I bought this thing and I never used it because I thought she was adorable. My most used highlighter formula is the MAC Extra Dimension Skin Finish. At one point in time, I used to collect every one that they used to come out with. That became expensive, especially once I realized I was only using so many. But this shade here, Hot Demoiselle, I don't even know that last word. We're not even going to try to pronounce it. But look at her. I bought this simply for the embossing, and she is adorable. And I never wanted to mess it up because it was so pretty. But I had to remind myself, Torrence, you're the prettiest thing in your collection. Any and everything can be used. And now that I have used her, she cute. She was limited edition, so I don't think you can find her no more. Well, let's see if you can see her there. She does have some slight yellow gold reflex in her. So if you are not a fan of seeing that on your skin, they are subtle, but they are there. You may have preferred the lighter shade they came out with, which was this one here, Postmodernistic Peach. I figured this pinky one would go a little more with this look. I could show y'all what this one looks like, but I still haven't touched her. But I'm guessing if your complexion is slightly lighter than mine, then more than likely you would prefer this one here. And the Nars Soft Matte, I wear the shade Medium Deep 2 Tahoe. So that'll just give you an idea of those. What else do we have going on? On the lips. Remember in my Juvia's Place video, I've been trying to figure out what was going bad, the gloss or the lipsticks. I'm convinced now it is those lip glosses. I bought the lip gloss in the shade Oasis. And although she was beautiful when you put her on, I started noticing throughout the day she would get a little sticky and I would have to either reapply her or just wipe her off altogether. The lipstick here, today I'm wearing Nubian Sand, no issues. I did notice today when I used her that she does have a slight scent to her. I don't think it's something that they added to the bullet. I just think it's the way that the bullet smells. But I'm wearing this with a lip liner today, no issue. I was able to go and put my liner on, put my lipstick on top of that, then go back in with another liner. Absolutely no problems. And the liner that I'm wearing is Soar from MAC. Love this bad boy. She's just enough to give this some color and let you know that I'm wearing a liner, because I feel as if this lipstick shade by itself would be too pale on my complexion. But I love pale nudes. I love pale nudes and I love adding a liner. So I have those on. On the lower lash line, I am wearing the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil, favorite formula. But this is a shade Woodstock. Never tried it before. Figured I would go ahead and put her on. When I first put her on, it really looked like it was not opaque. It was not going to go on. You couldn't see it. But I'm looking at her and I'm like, Torrence, I can clearly see that pink right here. And I think she's even showing up on camera. So I'm like, okay, is she the world's greatest? Considering she's the only pink one I have, to me she will be. But I'm not the biggest fan of putting pink near the eyes. So I have her. I wanted to use her. I have her there. For blush, the Nude Prism Blush Palette. I wanted to make sure I pulled her out, and I had to use shades that I know I would never gravitate to. I'm like, Torrence, you want to use this shade here, Kawaii, because she is so bright, she's so pink. But then I told myself, use two shades you would never touch if you were not on camera. Went in first with this lighter shade here, Zay. She's neutral, she's satin, and I'm like, on my complexion, she's way too light. If you have like a fair medium complexion, you may think that's beautiful, but I went in just to see what she was like. Wasn't about anything. But I topped her off with this shade here, Blaze. Something deep, rich, something I would never go toward. I usually prefer pinks over this type of shade. But when I put her on top of it, beautiful. This shade is nice and pigmented. I think this will probably look best on someone with a deeper complexion than myself. But having this as being too light, this being a little too dark for my taste, layering them one on top of the other, baby, you could tell I got blush on, and she is cute. And I think she looks even prettier on this side, because this is where I went first. Accidentally had a little too much on the brush. So you can see she is there, and I did not want to remove that just so you can see what that color looks like. But on this side, I was a little more careful and got a better blend going on. But ain't nobody gonna see that. I just make sure I whip my hair on this side so they don't see that little spot where I put down too much. But you can see, even if you go in too ham, that color is nice and pretty. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but if I did, all tools and products will be in the description bar below. The only thing left to do now is our lower lash line and highlight our inner corner and our brows. So let's get into it. You already know, lower lash line usually goes with the top. So we're gonna take two pencil brushes. Our largest one, gonna start off with our shade here, Cherry Blossom, just to get everything diffused. Then we're gonna deepen things up with a smaller pencil brush and go into this shade here, Sakura. I want to avoid this shade here, Bloom for You, because it's really deep and dark, and I don't want it to take over the lower lash line here. On some days I would, but because this is nice and pretty and soft, or soft for me, we're gonna try to keep it that way. And because I know the pigmentation of this shadow now, I do have my brush loaded up, but we're gonna still tap off just the tiniest bit, just in case we get fallout. Because I have a yellow complexion, I don't want that pink fallout right here underneath my eye. And we're gonna start from the outermost point, connect those, and just bring that all the way in. Ooh, yes, ma'am. I'm not gonna lie, with having my brush loaded up on the lower end, she's building up a lot faster for me. But then again, I find that most shadows on my lower lash line build up a lot easier, which is why I like to take my time, because one mistake down there can be drastic. I was about to say it can be dramatic. I meant drastic. I'll be right back after I do that on this side. And all those Sakuras on a smaller brush, we're gonna still tap off that excess, because this is where the pigmentation is gonna come through. Want to make sure I give you all a good view of that. Gonna start on the outer end, and we're gonna blend some of that off, but I want to make sure that connects to my outer V on the top. I do not want there to be a gap there. And because I knocked off my brush, I am gonna have to go in just a little bit more, but that doesn't upset me. and buff this out. We want just a little color to peek through on the lower lash line. We do not want this to take over. And make sure she's connected on the outer end. Now it's time to highlight our inner corner and our brows. You already know, for the inner corner, I like things to be beaming and bright. So we're gonna go in with the lightest shade here. That is So Icy right here. Gotta use that for the inner corner. But I'm gonna want something a little more subtle for underneath the brows. So we're gonna go to the shade right next to it, right here, You're Golden. And we're gonna use this for underneath the brows. And with a name like So Icy, I went in lightly just to make sure I don't do too much. So we're gonna take this first, gonna hit this, and I wanna make sure I can get this where you all can see it. Turn my head, there we go. Ooh. Oh yeah, she is showing up on camera. And truth be told, she doesn't look as pale and white as I thought she would. She's much more like a translucent base. And she has some shimmer that comes through at first, and then you can build her up. And what I'm gonna do is just drag her up here to cover up just part of that inner corner shade Sand. I want you to see that from the front. Let me see if I can turn my head this way. You can see I have it here, but then I'm slightly blending it up right here, just so things gradate a lot easier. And I think that's beautiful. Now for the brow bone highlight, I took the same brush, I just flipped it over, and we're gonna make sure we go to the highest arch of our brow, and I wanna just sweep back slightly just to see how much pigmentation we get. And it appears we're getting the same thing. We're getting much more of the reflective sparkles than we are pigmentation. And for a brow bone highlight, I think she's beautiful. I don't wanna go over that shade too many times because then the pigmentation from that shadow is going to come through and I'm going to look like I have a gold stripe underneath my brows. And I just need something right there that just barely catches the light. I want to see if I can show you all how to look if I go in once more. You see what that looks like there? If I were to go right there to the very top, you can see how that one spot has a little more shine than the rest of than underneath the rest of the brow. So I'm going to do that over here too, just so they match. And baby, I think she looking cute now. Want to take a step back, double check, make sure I ain't forget nothing. And it don't look like it, so you know it's time to set everything. So grab your sprays, because you already know I'm about to grab mine. Fix Plus to give us a glowy do. All nighter, so things will last all day. Cheap Fan, Expensive Breeze, Good Times. I'm going to give this a little more time to dry and I'll be back to show you all the final look. And this is the final look. I want to go ahead, give you all a full face view of things before I give you all my final thoughts. And I'm here to let you all know, I absolutely love this look, honey. This here is nice and pretty. It's usually outside of my comfort zone, but as someone who's not a fan of pinks, I must admit these shades are beautiful. But as you all know, no palette is perfect to me. Everything has its pros and cons, so let's go ahead and get into this one. First off, pro. Packaging, fabulous, top line. And I love the fact that it's cardboard. I know a lot of people prefer plastic over cardboard. I'm someone who loves cardboard because if for any reason I need to depot my shadows, it's much easier to take them out of these than it is a plastic piece. I've shattered more eyeshadows taking them out of plastic than anything else. Once we're inside, I don't want to show you, but there is a very large mirror in this palette here. Beautiful quality. I still have the sticker on mine, but you can still see everything just right without it. Without taking it off, so there's no need to do so. Once we're on the inside, 18 shades, 12 mattes, beautiful. I wouldn't say they're the world's most pigmented shadows, but they are nice and pigmented. They're nice and buildable. They're blendable. No problems with them. For me, the shimmers, how can I put it? They apply beautifully. You have no issues with them. The only two things that I can see somebody having an issue with these shimmers is one, they do have some reflective particles to them. Although I would never consider that to be glitter because they are very, very fine. Some people just don't like that. They want either just a straight, you know, metallic shadow, no shimmer, no glimmer to it, either just shine or no shine. So if you are afraid of micro sparkles, you may not want this. The only other problem I can see with it is, to me, to know that we have 6 different shimmers, I really believe they could have cut this down to probably 3 or 4 shimmers and given us another variety of colors. When I look at it, so icy is nice. So golden is a yellow gold, and then you come down here to Sam, which is a nice bright pink. I say take those 3, and then these other 3, Laura, Expose, and Starcross, and they could have been a whole lot deeper to give you much more depth and dimension in this palette. As you can see here, I'm wearing 2 shades, and you can tell this inner shade is lighter than this outer shade here, but from certain angles, they basically blend into each other. In person, you can see the difference, there's no doubt about it. But as someone like myself who tends to do more makeup on YouTube, or almost every look that I wear, I try to put on YouTube, I'm not sure that this is the best palette for social media. She looks beautiful, she's fabulous, but there are other palettes that I have, especially from Manny MUA, that give me a wider color variety. Mattes, beautiful shimmers. If you're the type who just put one color on the lid, keep it moving, that's what she's fabulous for. Nude Prism, basic, keep it going looks. But other than that, do I recommend her? Yes. I think the packaging is beautiful, the formula is beautiful. It's just that to know that I have 6 shimmers, I really look at this and I'm like, honestly, 3, maybe 4 tops. The others we could have gotten rid of. But blush palette here, another beauty. Which other, I think it's called the Moon Prism blush palette. I'm not sure which one it is, but every blush that I've ever received from Manny MUA has been beautiful. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't continue to collect the palettes because they have them here. But it was nice to realize that a shade like this, Blaze, which is a shade I would never purchase individually, has turned up pretty on my skin. So now she got me looking like, Manny, I think your subscribers will love it if you drop this as an individual, because I wouldn't mind getting her as an individual, especially knowing how, you know, fabulous she turned out on the skin. The one thing I really do wish Manny would come out with is a highlighter palette, honey. It seems like all his highlighters are always sold out, especially the one in my complexion. So I might take all of the ones from your permanent collection and put them in a limited edition palette so we can get them. Other than that, honey, I'm sitting back looking at the look like, skin is on fleek. As you can see, the eyeshadows are vibrant, they are pretty. But I generally feel as if you're gonna get more depth and dimension in person than you are on camera. And considering the fact that most of the people who watch my channel, you know, don't have a YouTube, I think they would really like it. So to me, Manny, you have a hit with these 2. If I just had to choose, Torrence, if you could only have the eyeshadow palette or the blush palette, which one would you choose? Blush palette. Simply because even just looking at this here, without even swatching it, you can look at that and see that there is 6 completely different shades. They have different undertones to them, different depth and dimension. So it's like, I see the variety in these 6 shades. With those 6 shimmers in there, it's not quite the same. But I truly do believe that if you purchase either item, you will be happy with your purchase. It's just that if you could only pick one, I say grab the blush palette. More than likely, that's going to be everybody's favorite over the eyeshadow palette, because many of us have, you know, warm neutrals, pink tones, and shimmers, which this palette offers. But I had to have her. The packaging was beautiful. The color story is beautiful. I'm a collector of Lunar Beauty, so I'm like, I'm glad to have her. And if you all would like to see another tutorial with this palette, just make sure you leave me a comment down below. Also, what else did I want to let you know about? Oh, stay tuned, because in my next tutorial, the last thing that I have to test out is that other Juvia's Place lipstick. It's their darkest one, Shiva. Where'd she go? Here she is right here. I'm still, once I told y'all, I'm testing everything out to make sure I know what was giving me a bad issue. I truly believe it was that Oasis gloss, But once we test her out in our next tutorial and we put her down, we will know for sure. I might also go ahead and pull out this Postmodernistic Peach because I just want to see what she looks like on my skin. And just to make sure I don't feel too bad about doing so, I'm about to swatch her right here just to see what she looks like. I never in my life thought I would swatch these two shades, but because y'all here, we're going to go ahead and do it. Let me just show y'all Postmodernistic Peach on the top here. And this is that hot Damoiselle there. And you can see that's going to be much more icy and much more lighter on my complexion, which is why I said with my tan skin, she looks beautiful. And if you have a lighter complexion, you will want this one. But now I ain't afraid to go in and use it because I just went ahead and swatched it because like I said earlier, I'm the prettiest thing in my collection, not a piece of makeup. And with that being the last thing here, I think that's everything. I hope you all truly did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're also subscribed to my channel because I have 3 videos coming to you all each and every week. We're going to try to keep up with it. So far we have. But with nothing else, I hope you all remember to practice, continue to stay blessed, and until next time, goodbye, YouTube.